Hey y'all, it's Nick from Undefeated Productions, and welcome to the 3-2 Pitch, our podcast where me and Drew are going out talking about many things across the world of baseball. And as you guys know, as of Tuesday night, we have baseball back. Opening day, July 24th, 23rd, and then the players are reporting July 1st. So let's start it off. Drew, what are your takes on this brand new thing? We're hopping right into it.
Well, it's it's definitely as Buster Olney wrote from ESPN. He wrote that it's definitely bittersweet. And one of the things that I'm a little concerned about is not only the shortened well, I'm going to call it the summer training that they're going to have, which is going to be it's going to be very short. I'm worried about injuries. I'm still worried about the COVID-19 situation and what that can look like. But I think the fact that, and I'm also pretty discouraged that they didn't come to an agreement, and that it came down from the commissioner, and he's the one that implemented the schedule. But again, we've been talking for the last 2 months about how we wanted baseball, and now we have baseball. So again, hoping that we don't have another outbreak. It looks like most of the teams will be reporting on July 1st. Which is next week, which I still don't see feasible, but they're talking about that. And in their home ballparks, because Arizona and Florida, as many of you may know, have had some spikes in the coronavirus outbreak. So those areas are no longer, they shut down a lot of the facilities. So we're looking at, teams in their own stadiums. I'm kind of excited to think about the idea that the Giants will be at Oracle Park doing their summer training, and it's just kind of cool to think about. I might even go over there and try to watch through the little peephole. I don't know if you knew that at that particular place they have an area where you can actually see into the stadium. I'm not sure what they'll do as far as security goes, but and then July 24th it's a Friday, so that's always a good time to have a beer in your hand and watch a baseball game if that is the day that they're able to have opening day. So I'm honestly sort of mixed on this. I'm in the middle, but I'm very pleased that we can have a conversation today about our preview, and we can go into the playoff preview that we promised our amazing fans. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of things to consider while we move into the 60-game playoff preview. And, when you're thinking about seasons and teams, some teams get really hot off the bat. And if you are one of those teams that get really hot off the bat, you have a very strong chance to make the playoffs. We saw the Mariners last year get off to a 23 and something, run. You do that, you almost guarantee yourself a postseason spot, considering you win another 15 games. It's going to take 40, 45 games to make the playoffs this year. And, you got to consider those hot starts. And then also, if your team starts really cold, that's also going to play into consideration. If you, say start off 5-20, there's low chances you make the playoffs. So it's
You're done.
Yeah, you're basically done. This is how impactful this 60-game season is going to be. So when you're considering this, you have tons of things to take into consideration. But for me personally, I'm just going to go off if we were, the strong teams. It's hard to predict that, hey, the Mariners, this bottom feeder in the AL West are going to come up and be strong again. The Miami Marlins, Baltimore Orioles, Detroit Tigers, we can't, predict that they're going to start off really hot. And we also can't predict that, the Los Angeles Dodgers are going to start off really cold. So for me, at least, I'm going to just go with my top teams in the divisions and to put in the wild cards. And we're just going to go off that as if there was a 162-game season, as if, as in their skill level. So that's how I'm going to base off my postseason. I don't know how Drew's going to do it, but another thing to take into consideration really quick as things are opening up, players are not immune to the coronavirus. We see big names like Charlie Blackmon. The Phillies had a bunch of cases come positive. The Rangers, the Astros, these players are still susceptible to the coronavirus. And this is something out of consideration that we may be pushed back a little more depending on how many people show up to camps, and then if it does spread throughout a team. So fingers crossed that does not happen. but that is something that moving forward, there may be a possibility the season gets pushed back a little bit. So going into our division feeders, how we're going to do it is we're just going to go through our division winners for each division, our wild card teams, and then we're going to move on to our postseason World Series winner and just move on like that. So Drew, why don't you start us off with the National League?
Yeah, so I'm not going to make any bold changes to my division winners that I had originally when we did our division previews, but I might, and this is a little disclaimer, but I might make some tweaks to my wild card teams, and the reason why is, even though, and again, this is something that we also that I forgot to mention, which is we might still have an expansion for the playoffs, and that's something that they're still gonna, I believe they're still gonna continue to negotiate. I know that I was reading yesterday that they had originally said that they didn't want to have players wear microphones, as unless the Players Association agreed to their specific demands. But once everyone sort of gets started, they're thinking that cooler heads will prevail and that the players will just agree to sort of wear the microphones, because again, they're trying to, even though the Players Association and the owners have had such an issue when it comes to their negotiations, they will try to do whatever they can to keep fans interested in the game. So I think that's a huge aspect of this. They may have the expansion, they may not. But as far as our terms today, we're going to just consider that it still will be the 10-team format, where you have your 4 division winners, you have the 2 wild cards, and then you have the play-in game. And then that's how it works. So we're gonna continue on that basis as of now, and then we'll see how it goes. So I will start, with the NL West, and I'm going to go with the Dodgers. It's not, to me, it's not close. I think that they are even in better shape in a shortened season because of their depth, because of their pitching depth, because of they still have a great bullpen and their lineup. When you think about all of the different players that they can plug in, guys like Kike Hernandez that can come in, guys like Jock Peterson, still on the team, even though they tried to trade him, but it didn't go through. And, just guys like Beatty, guys that were on the cusp last year, but weren't really able to maybe, show who they were, because again, most of their star players were getting the playing time. But this year, I think most teams are going to need this taxi squad of extra support. So I think the Dodgers they may get off to a slow start, but I do not see them, losing this division, because I don't see, other than Arizona and maybe San Diego, I don't see, anyone else competing. I know some people in the Bay Area are talking about, and Andrew Baggerly wrote a piece in The Athletic talking about how, and by the way, if you haven't subscribed to The Athletic, subscribe to The Athletic. It's a wonderful, I don't know if fans are aware of it, but it is a paywall site, but some of the best writers are in, providing information while all these sports are starting to open up, and the NBA, the NHL, MLB. They were talking about how the Giants might have a chance in a shortened season because they did go on that nice stretch in July last year. I don't see it. I don't, yes, they did improve a little bit in their rotation with Kevin Gausman and Drew Smyly, but, I still think Samardzija. I don't see Cueto being, this world beater coming back from his injury. And I'm still not sold on their young guys, Tyler Beede having to have surgery, that definitely hurts. And their bullpen, to me, is mediocre at best. Their lineup speaks for itself. Until Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt are gone, I am so done with those two. I'm sorry, but that's just me as a Giants fan speaking. So I do not see, Mike Yastrzemski carrying this team to a division title, and I don't see them competing for a wild card. So I have the Dodgers, and I don't have any of the teams following them competing for a wild card spot. Moving to the NL Central, again, it may not be a popular pick, but I like the Cubs. I like the Cubs, and I think the reason why is because something that I've talked about is experience, and I still think they have, especially in their starting rotation, they still have, to me, they have the ability to, take a short series, and again, all of these series, they're going to be more important, and all of these series are going to be, most of them are going to be within the division. So from what I heard, and I don't know if you heard this, Nicholas, but they're talking about 10 games against each of their division opponents, and then is it 5 or 10 against the same division interleague?
Yeah.
So they're not going to be playing. You're not going to be playing interdivision games anymore, at least this year. So you're not going to have the Mets aren't going to play the Cubs. The Giants aren't going to play the Mets. It's not going to happen. They're going to stay within the division. And I think the Cubs have the arms. I really believe they have the arms and they have the lineup to put together, enough 2 out of 3 series. Maybe they're not sweeping all the series, but they're taking these series. And because I don't like Milwaukee this year, I'm not. I'm obviously Pittsburgh is in rebuilding mode. St. Louis, to me, they lost a little too much in the offseason, and we'll see what happens with Cincinnati. They're still to be TBD. I do think Cincinnati has a chance at a wild card spot, but I'm not sold on them yet. I think St. Louis has a better chance for one of those wild card spots at this point. So I'm going to go with the Cubs in the NL Central. In the NL East, it's a landslide for Atlanta. They have the young talent. They've got the arms. They've got in a shortened season. I think they're going to be in great shape. I think they've got a lot of guys that still have a lot to prove. Acuna Jr. still has a lot to prove. Ozzie Albies still has a lot to prove, and these guys are going to be in the spotlight now. That's the one thing about this season, and again, why I think they should wear the microphones is I think it's really important that these guys are showing who they are now. Now it's time to show off their personalities. We'll get to this in a moment, but I see a guy like Francisco Lindor. I see him really, this being his kind of moment where he's a guy that smiles. He likes to have fun on the field. He likes to enjoy himself. He kind of reminds me of Jose Reyes back in the day, and before Jose Reyes had all his problems. But I think, guys like Ozzie Albies and Acuna Jr., they are going to shine in this platform. I really believe that. And I love what they've done with their starting rotation. I love what they did with their bullpen, bringing in Will Smith and Mark Melancon. So I just think they are in great shape to take that division. However, I do think that there are a couple teams that have a chance at a wild card spot, and I think Philadelphia is one of them. And I think also you can't forget about the Mets and the Nationals. Thinking about what they did last year, although I do think they're going to take a step back. So my division winners, again, the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Braves. And my wild card teams, okay, maybe we should have our, drum roll here, okay? I am going to take the Cardinals as one of my wild card teams, okay? And my other wild card team is going to be, I'm going to go with the Mets. I'm going to go with the Mets. I love their starting rotation. I think that they, again, are going to be a team. I think they're going to benefit from the fact that they don't have as many maybe distractions from the media or the fans. I think that playing in New York is tough in front of those fans, and I think this might give them a little bit. So this is a shift. I was thinking more Philadelphia being in this spot, but I've shifted my thinking to a team like the Mets that have the frontline starters, a lot of great young talent. When you talk about Pete Alonso and what he can do as a sophomore now, and I don't think they're going to win the wild card game. Okay, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But as of now, those are my playoff contenders for the National League. And after you go ahead with yours, we'll talk about who's going to come out of the National League.
Yeah, so one big thing that I was just thinking of when you were talking about that we also forgot to mention, the universal DH will most likely be implemented in the National League.
Yes,
That
it will be.
helps a team like the Mets tremendously. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about them down the line, but starting off the National League West, the DH probably helps this team the most, the Los Angeles Dodgers. As you were saying, the Dodgers have amazing depth, from top to bottom, every position. The DH is just going to help them so much more. And, even without the DH, the Dodgers are such a strong team. I mean, they're unbelievable. I mean, adding in Mookie Betts, adding in David Price for what, Verdugo, and, you lose Maeda, but you're bringing in Gratterall. I mean, you guys pull off an amazing trade right there. You just boost your chances of winning just so much more. Just bringing in the top 5 talent to go with Bellinger in the outfield. Like, man, this team is absolutely crazy. Along with going from their pitching, I mean, Kershaw has always been dominant, not in the postseason though. Bueller's taking a step up. You guys bring back Alex Wood. I mean, you guys are just an
Don't forget
amazing
about
team.
David Price.
Yeah, David Price. I mean, I drafted him on my fantasy team. I'm high on him moving to the National League this year. Bringing in Blake Treinen out of the bullpen. That's a trouble for the Dodgers recently. But if he can go back to 2018 form, Treinen can be filthy. So overall, the Dodgers, very, very strong team in the National League West. It's going to be hard to see them not winning this division. The National League Central, this is probably the one division we disagreed on the most. And, I'm still going with the Reds. I really like what they built up this offseason. Again, as you guys know, I am high on these younger teams, these teams coming out of, rebuild. I think the Reds put a bunch of pieces in the right place this offseason, bringing in Moustakas, bringing in Castellanos. Those two bats alone, they're going to play so well. We saw what Castellanos did when he moved to the National League Central and played for the Cubs. Moustakas, he's going to hit tons of home runs in that ballpark. This team overall has been great. Aquino coming back strong. Suarez can hit 50 home runs. I think Votto with this protection is going to bounce back. And also the pitching staff, I think their pitching staff may be the best in the Central with Sonny Gray. You have Luis Castillo up there. I mean, those two are just so dominant. Bringing in Wade Miley. I'm forgetting another name off the top of my head. I know that they have the 3 strong ones. But overall, this Reds team, I see it hard for them to be beaten. The Cardinals, I think there was a rumor back a couple months ago where the Puig and the Cardinals had something together. Ken Rosenthal tweeted something about that, which that alters my opinion because Puig coming in for Ozuna, I think that's really strong. It gives the Cardinals a little bit more of an edge over the Reds. But as of right now, nothing's official. And Puig is still considered a free agent, and that may change here Friday, which the transaction freeze is going to be lifted Friday. So until then,
The Giants are looking at Puig.
Yeah,
too,
there's a lot of teams looking at Puig. So expect a video when Puig signs. But overall, I still think that the Reds will have the edge over the Cardinals and a team like the Cubs, who I don't count the Cubs out. They're going to be a strong team with their veteran presence, and they could come up and start hot like we all mentioned at the beginning. Moving on to the National League East. And, I also see it hard to see the Braves, losing this division. They have so many young talents. The interactions between Acuna and Albies, they're amazing. I really hope that they can get them mic'd up. Watching them in spring training last season when the camera was on them, they're like brothers, It's so much fun to watch. Freeman, a top first baseman in the league, bringing in Ozuna. Yes, you lose Donaldson, but that gives us a place for Austin Riley or Johan Camargo. Camargo was really strong before they brought in Donaldson last year. Overall pitching staff, they bring in Cole Hamels, but again, what is he going to do? He's getting older. The one shaky spot for the Braves is their rotation. And I really see their rotation lacking compared to these other teams like the Nationals and Mets. Even the Phillies can go out and have a stronger rotation. Can Fultonevich bounce back this year? And can Mike Soroka keep up his strength of his rookie campaign last year? But overall, all around, the Braves probably have the best team in the division. Now that moves us on to the wild card spots. And with you, I do think the Cardinals are going to get that first wild card spot. It's hard to see a team, that has that strong of a rotation and has that depth, in their lineup. I think Carpenter, he's worked out. He's looking great this year. Goldschmidt, he's not going to have a worse year. He's going to get bounced back after coming back, coming over from Arizona in the trade. I just really like what the Cardinals have in general. Hyun Young Kim, I believe that's his name, bringing him over from, I believe it was Korea. I think he is a great signing. Under 3 ERA posted in Korea. Yes, that is a step down from the MLB, but if he can transfer that over, I think he is going to be a solid pitcher for you guys. And then the second wild card, it is going to be a toss-up. I do see the Diamondbacks coming out strong. I like what they did with Starling, bringing in Starling Marte. And I do think they're young pitching, along with the Mets and Nationals. I don't really see any other teams competing. But like you, I do see the Mets coming out. I just don't feel like there's a team that it has enough depth. And like I said at the beginning, talking about the Mets, the DH helps them so much. They can now get a bat like Dominic Smith or J.D. Davis into that lineup every day. Oh, and then you forget about Yoenis Cespedes. If he comes back healthy, this COVID has allowed him to rehab much more than anticipated. He is going to be an amazing bat to add to that lineup. Yes, they did lose Noah Syndergaard, but you guys have to remember that they did bring in Michael Wacha and former Cy Young Award winner Rick Porcello. And Jeremy Hefner, the pitching coach from Minnesota, we saw what he did with their pitchers last year. I'd be interested to see what Hefner can do with Porcello and Wacha. Overall, the Mets will be getting the second wild card position.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move right into my matchups for the National League. And I'm going to start with the first matchup because the number 1 overall seed will be the LA Dodgers. So the Dodgers will be facing the St. Louis Cardinals in the first round after they defeat your New York Mets in the wild card game. And I think it's going to be one of those classic first round matchups for the Dodgers because the Dodgers are at a point right now where they are fragile. They're very mentally fragile. But I think, honestly, I think this whole situation is the best thing that could have happened for them. The same with the Astros as far as the cheating scandal. I think this is just what the doctor ordered. A shortened season, a change in expectations. Yes, they're going to be expected to win, but it will be a lot different in terms of how they are perceived because of the COVID situation. Without the fans, the pressure will be a lot different to me for them, and I think that will make a difference. So I see them taking the first round matchup against the Cardinals in 4 games. In the other matchup, we'll be looking at the Cubs and the Braves. And I said this earlier in our playoff preview. I said that it's time for the Braves to get past the first round, and this is the year to do it. Again, with the DH, with the I think they're better than the Cubs. I mean, just in general. And I think, again, it'll help them to have a little bit of that pressure taken off. The postseason is going to be a lot different. I was thinking last night about what's it going to look like when teams celebrate now because they're not supposed to even high five. So you're not going to see those mosh pits in the middle anymore. That's kind of sad. But I guess they'll just kind of like, jump up and down or something without touching. I'm sure they'll figure something out. But they will. The Braves will get to the NLCS this year. I think it's their time. They're not going to get to the World Series, though, because the Dodgers are going to defeat the Braves in 5 games. The LA Dodgers will get to the World Series this year.
Yeah, so this is an interesting matchup because, personally, as a Mets fan, I think completely different. I like to look at matchups individually between teams. And for the wild card, the Cardinals and Mets, I see Jack Flaherty and Jacob deGrom going out. And I think Jacob deGrom, his debut returning to the postseason, I think there's nothing that
unless they have to fight to get to the wild card game to the last day and deGrom has to pitch. Don't forget about that.
Yes, there is that possibility, but I just believe that they have a bunch of different options that I can go out and use. I still think that even with a short rest, deGrom's coming out of the bullpen, just like a Madison Bumgarner Game 7. He's too much of a workhorse not to do that. I think deGrom just wipes out the Cardinals. We saw what DeGrom – actually, no, we did not see what the DeGrom did. He was injured when they played the Cardinals last year. My bad. But I just think DeGrom solo-handedly beats any team, across the playoff in the league. I mean, DeGrom is so dominant, and you guys will hear me say this. He's the best pitcher in baseball right now in New York until Garrett Cole can prove himself in New York this year. I mean, yes, you disagree, but personally, I have the Mets beating the Cardinals unless, like you say, DeGrom somehow does not get, they're battling all the way through, which is a strong possibility. Overall, I have the Mets beating the Cardinals. And then you have this Mets-Dodgers rematch from 2015, that epic Game 5. We all know what happened between Chase Utley and Ruben Tejada. It's pouring back into this 2015. And going across matchups, losing Syndergaard really hurts the Mets this year. And, in something like this, I know emotions be flying for him. But overall, I do see the Dodgers prevailing over the Mets. But again, don't count the Mets out. I think we almost all counted the Nationals out at one point last year during the postseason. We saw what they did Game 5. Howie Kendrick, our hero. As a Mets fan, I don't think I was rooting for a team like the Nationals more.
Oh, I loved it.
Oh, that was amazing. I remember watching it and freaking out.
As a Giants fan, it was just absolute bliss.
Yeah, Dodgers, my second most hated team. I don't know if you guys know that. But, overall, I do see the Dodgers. But, again, don't count the Mets out. I like what they have in their offense. I like what they have with the DH. Just be interesting to watch how much Kershaw can choke against, this Mets lineup. Moving on to the other division. And like you said, the Braves, and I have the Reds. Overall, I think that the Braves probably do have the edge over the Reds. I don't see the Reds lineup, coming into. I think the Braves' young hitters are going to just prevail over everything, and I think the Reds' offense coming into the postseason after a 60-game season, fighting for this division win, I don't see their bats having enough within this 5-game series. I think the Braves will win this series in 4 games, moving on to the National League Championship Series, where we have the Dodgers and Braves. The Braves and Dodgers, two teams that have very, very strong lineups. And personally, when you look at the pitching stats, that's what I'm comparing here. The Dodgers definitely do have an edge, which is going to put them above the Braves. We saw both of these teams last year be super strong during the regular season. And however, I do see the factor of Ronald Acuna Jr. coming into this series and being absolutely lights out, getting on base, hitting it at a 400-something clip. I do see the Dodgers hitters, being able to come out stronger than the Braves. I do think that it's around this time, Albies will probably be slumping. I don't think he's, has enough to take this pressure yet. He's just a player for me, Albies. I'm kind of right in the middle with him. I can see his potential. I can't. But I think the pressure from this point in the championship series can get to him. I have the Dodgers prevailing over the Braves, Dodgers winning the National League. Now we're going to move on to the American League. We're going to give our previews for our division winners, our wild card winners, and then who's going to win. And then finally, after that, we're going to wrap up in the World Series. American League, who you got?
So AL West, it's a top-heavy division. It's it's a good division, but it's not, again, like I've mentioned, it's not the best division in baseball. But this is a wonderful opportunity for this Oakland A's team to really show, not only who they are as a young, strong, unique group of individuals, but for them to take advantage of a team like the Astros that may not be, as powerful as they once were. And I'm not saying I do believe that the Astros are going to take one of the wild card spots, and I'll get to that in a moment. But this Oakland A's team, with their young pitching, with their ability, again, hopefully to stay healthy, because if they're not able to stay healthy, that's where we could see some major issues in a shortened season. If Luzardo or Puck or one of their young starters isn't able to get through the season, or even worse, have an injury going into the postseason, okay, there could be a problem there. But I think, again, just like the Braves, I think it's the A's, it's their time to not only get into the postseason, so get past. They're not going to have to deal with the wild card game because they're winning the division. but also get to the ALCS and win a first-round matchup. I think they're that talented. I think they're that good. And I think the fact that they're young and that it's going to be a different type of season is definitely going to make a difference. So I've got the Oakland A's taking the AL West. In the AL Central, again, this is it's a division that, is, to me, it's a stinker of a division. The Chicago White Sox have a chance to be, they have a chance to be really good, but they're not. To me, they're not at the level of where you say Cincinnati might be. I know that they have a lot of young talent. Okay, Moncada, and when you look at who they've brought in for their rotation, and just the expectations that they have to be a lot better this year. To me, they're not at that tier yet. I still think Cleveland, as I mentioned Lindor before, I still think they have enough experience and talent. While, a lot of their great rotation has been shipped out, they have a chance to still be competitive. So this division, to me, it's the Twins' division to lose. It's definitely, it's their division. They are, they're a team that now has an expectation. They have, hefty goals in mind. So I think they're going to get that division. And pretty comfortably, even in a shortened season. I think they have the depth and they have the talent to take that division pretty easily. And moving to my favorite division this year, which is the AL East, I see the Yankees taking this division. But again, Tampa Bay, as we mentioned and as you mentioned, they with their great rotation. I mean, wonderful, wonderful rotation of the, I call it the two-headed monster, at the top with just incredible talent. I mean, Blake Snell, he is just an upcoming superstar. They don't have enough superstar talent in their lineup. But again, a lot of these guys like Kiermaier and, some of the guys that they brought over like Renfroe and pieces that they've already had that they've been building, I really think that they have a chance to be great this year. So, but they're not going to tie for first place, like you said. The Yankees are just too good. The Yankees just have, like the Dodgers, depth. I think depth is our key word in a shortened season. They've been taking advantage of the DH for a number of years anyway. But now, with the universal DH all the way through, and think about what that will look like if they get to the World Series too, where it's just DH all the way through, right? No matter what. They are minus again, the fact that they could have injuries. But I love their starting rotation now. I really do. I think, Tanaka still has what it takes. I think a wonderful, wonderful ace, Garrett Cole. I mean, he is just what can you say about him? He's as I mentioned, he's got the stuff, he's got the mentality, he's got a year where he doesn't have to play in front of the fans, which I think will really help him. And I think James Paxton, with that righty-lefty matchup, I think that's going to be really beneficial for them. So the Yankees are taking the division. To my wild cards, you got to go with Houston. Houston is going to be a team that is still, they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. I'm not a huge fan of Dusty Baker. I've never been a fan of his when it comes to the way he handles a pitching staff. But that doesn't mean that, the talent that they have in their rotation won't take over. So they're definitely getting one of those spots. I don't see the Central, having any competition there. While the White Sox might be better, the Royals are just no longer competitive. They had their time. They beat your Mets, which was funny. And then I like to bring that up. And then, now they're gone. So there's not going to be any, to me, there really isn't anything to worry about in the AL Central. And the Rays will get the other spot. Now, as we start to look at the matchups, which we're going to get to after you give your predictions, it's going to be interesting, that wild card matchup. That wild card matchup might be better than some of the actual matchups in the divisional round. So excited to get to that in a moment. And don't forget about Toronto. I know that I wanted to just mention them again, how they they have a chance to be really good this year in a shortened season with a lot of energy and young talent. So don't give up on them. They may be competing for that spot along with Houston for that second wild card spot.
Yeah, so like you said, the American League, there's so many top-heavy teams throughout the division, especially in the American League West, where, going out and looking at this, I am going to agree with you with the A's. I feel like their young pitching is going to step up with Luzardo and Puck. I think they're going to be dominant this year. No pressures on them. They can go out, they can just play. I think the A's definitely over the Astros. I know the Astros still there might be in their heads, but again, like you said, the best case scenario, the season getting delayed, no fans. It'd be interesting to see what happens in 2021 if this carries over, since the fans don't have anything to get out on the Astros yet. So that's going to be an interesting story to come up on in a year from now. But overall, the A's, I still think that they do have the edge over the Astros. The Astros did lose Cole. I don't think that the Astros are just going to be as strong this year. They're, new manager. They're all shaken up still, most likely. So overall, I think the A's definitely have the advantage in the American League West. Moving on to the Central, this is probably one of the, between the Twins and the White Sox, I have it. I still do think that the White Sox are going to, play much better than the Twins. Overall, comparing position to position, I just see the White Sox having the slight edge over the Twins. But again, this 60-game season, I wouldn't be shocked if a team like the Twins starts off strong and the White Sox can't get it together and the Twins do take this division. I do think that there's, like I said, strong possibility that those two teams take the division. And, it's a coin toss between them for me. But personally, I do like the White Sox a little bit more than the Twins right at this moment. Again, transaction stuff can change this. And, how players start off the bat, injuries, again, this can all change everything that we're talking about currently. But as it stands right now, I do think the White Sox have the edge over the Twins. Moving on to the American League East, and as you do like the Yankees so much, I still like the Rays. I think this is the year that the Rays are going to steal the division over the Yankees. I had them as a tie, but I think the shortened season, they take so many sneaky wins, so many sneaky sweeps. They swept the Yankees, I believe it was last year. I just really like what the Rays have. I like how they're able to come together. They just gel nicely, bringing in these additions of Renfroe, Jose Martinez. You get a healthy Snell, healthy Glasnow, a healthy Chirinos for an entire season. I just really like what the Rays have put together. And I just don't see the Yankees, coming out of New York. They have their little own scandal that everyone talks about. It's not going to impact them anything. But I just like what the Rays have. I mean, the Yankees are such a juggernaut of a team. But injuries also scare me with the Yankees as they have had injury issues in the past. And, going into spring training this year, they had more injury issues. So I just think the Rays, overall, they're a sneaky good team. They've been sneaky the last couple years, coming up. They almost beat the Astros last year in the division series. The Rays, they're a sneaky team to watch. I had them winning the division. Going on to the wild card teams, where I have the first team going to be the New York Yankees. I just don't see them, being, very far behind the Rays, and I definitely think going to be better than the second team, the Houston Astros. I think the Yankees and Astros, this is going to be probably the best matchup in my opinion. The Yankees are going to get all the revenge they want. First time playing Houston after all this cheating stuff came out. We all know what the Astros did to the Yankees 2 years now. This is going to be a fun matchup to watch. Garrett Cole against Verlander, former teammates, presumably. Granted, they don't have to battle, like you said, with DeGrom. So, again, this will be a great matchup. Who's going to win? I don't know. Drew, we're going to get to your postseason for the American League, and then we'll talk about the Astros Yankees.
And I think what's so cool about what you mentioned is that because the division, they're not going to have the interdivision matchups, that will be the first time that they play. So if the Astros were to meet the Yankees, that would be the first time they're playing in this year.
Yeah, and that's also a great thing to mention, is that this will be the first time, except for maybe in the wild card situation, but this will be the first time a lot of these teams play each other. They're not going to be interdivision. So, the Dodgers and Braves, that's the first time they play this year. Cardinals and Mets. We're going to see these teams that have not faced each other, don't have the scouting reports, of playing them to go off of earlier in the year. So definitely an interesting thing to, watch out for.
It's going to be really interesting. It's actually going to take us back to the old days when, there were two divisions, American and National League, and then they would play in the World Series. And that was what people loved about baseball at that time. But things have obviously changed. But so we'll start with the wild card matchup. And for me, I've got the Tampa Bay Rays and the Houston Astros. And, this year I'm going to go with the Rays. I really think that they are a team that they're going to get to that, they're going to get to that first round again. And they already had that matchup with the Astros last year. I think that the game will be in Tampa because I think they're going to have a better record. Not that it matters, really, to be honest. But I think they're going to prevail in that matchup. I think they have better pitching. I think they can match up better in that one game. I think Verlander, he's just old. And Greinke, I don't know. I don't see it. So I like Tampa Bay's depth in a one-game playoff. Going to the first matchup, to me, again, I've got the Yankees at the top spot, and I think they're going to be playing the Rays in this first round. It's going to be a great matchup. It's going to be interdivision, so they will have already played. I think it goes to a fifth game, but Garrett Cole's the difference. I think Garrett Cole's the difference in a game 5. I think he throws a game 1 and a game 5. Maybe even comes back and finishes them off in a game 4. But I see it in 5, and I see the Yankees getting to the ALCS. In our other matchup, I see a sweep. I see a surging Oakland team that has a lot of confidence, that has a wonderful rotation that is so well designed for a 5-game series. And I see a Twins team that at that point kind of leaking oil. And I see the A's sweeping the Minnesota Twins in the divisional round to set up a matchup of the New York Yankees and the Oakland A's in the ALCS. And in the ALCS, I see a wonderful back and forth matchup. But again, I see talent prevailing. I see experience prevailing. I see a team with just a few more guns, and the New York Yankees taking the American League pennant in 6 games, setting up a World Series between the LA Dodgers and the New York Yankees. Oh, the Fox's dream for ratings.
Yeah, so I think the American League, each matchup is going to be a great matchup, way better than each matchup in the National League. Starting off with the wild card, like I said, we have the Yankees, we have the Astros, and Verlander versus Cole. The young versus old. Verlander, the fine wine himself. Who's going to win? I have the Yankees prevailing over the Astros. I think Yankees are finally going to get that revenge over Houston and move on to face the Tampa Bay Rays. And this one, I have it going to 5 games too, but I have a different result. There's something about Tampa that makes me feel like, they almost got Houston last year. And Houston had Cole and Verlander. They got to both of them. Something tells me that they're going to be able to get to the Yankees, having played them previously in the entire, 10 games against the Yankees previously. I think that the Rays have something in them that is going to prevail them over the Yankees. I think playing them, beforehand is going to give them a great thing. And having the Yankees playing the wild card game against the Astros, burning Cole for that game 1. Cole's only be able to pitch 1 game, perhaps out of the bullpen in game 5 too. Depends on how many pitches he goes off. I just see the Rays. They're going to have this advantage over the Yankees. I have the Rays moving on to the championship series. For the other matchup, we have the A's and White Sox. And for this, I have the A's, like you said, a sweep over the Twins. I just don't see the White Sox having enough fuel left to come up and pass the A's. I think the A's are definitely going to sweep the White Sox, the Twins. The A's are just too strong. Like you said, they have a great rotation built for this. Nice young team. They're going to want to come back, go out strong after losing the wild card game last year. And this puts up a last year's wild card rematch, the A's and the Rays. And this is probably going to be one of the better matchups this entire postseason. I just there's something about both these teams that catch both my eyes. Great managers for both of them. And honestly, strategy is going to win this year. I do have the Rays most likely in 7 games, moving past the A's, advancing to the World Series. There's something about the Rays. I'm really high on the Rays. I really would like what Kevin Cash has, Blake Snell, Charlie Morton, Tyler Glasnow, Yanni Chirinos. Those 4 guys are just built for this, 7-game series. Throw each of them twice, perhaps. And then with their opener strategies, they move people around, bring in Jose Martinez and Renfroe. They're going to just mash. I just really like what the Rays have. There's not much to beat. Moving on to a World Series with the Tampa Bay Rays and the Los Angeles Dodgers. On to the World Series. Who do you got? It's the Fall Classic.
It's going to be an interesting time. Well, I say maybe we should take bets on even if we get to the World Series this year, because this is all wishful. But you know what? Sometimes in life, it's your time, and most of those situations where it's just time for something to happen for a team or an individual to get over the hump. Sometimes it takes something as critical or as unbelievable as this whole COVID situation is. This entire sort of how everything is being set up here. I just think that everything that they've been through, every single time that they've lost in the first round, every single time Kershaw has blown, a lead out of the bullpen or has, lost a big game that they needed him to win, like against, Game 5 against the Astros in 2017 when they had a big lead early on and he couldn't hold it. It's the Dodgers' time. It pains me to say this. And I really almost want to hit myself for saying this, but it's their time. They've got the talent. Mookie Betts. Give me a break. We didn't even mention him. This team is loaded. They're absolutely loaded. They're full of experience. They've got every single thing. Every single sign is with them. And I think it'll be an entertaining series. I see it going 6 games. But the Los Angeles Dodgers will prevail. And the sweet thing about it will be, for me, is that when we look back on this year and we say, oh, the Dodgers won the World Series, you know what? We'll put an asterisk next to it anyway. So it won't even count. But they are getting it. The LA Dodgers will take home the World Series trophy.
Yeah, so for your case, that's probably my most feared scenario. My 2 most hated teams, the Yankees and the Dodgers, facing in the World Series. But for my end, we have the Rays and the Dodgers. And at this point, I do see the Rays running out of gas. I don't think that they're going to have enough to beat the Dodgers. I have the Dodgers winning this in 5 games. But like you said, put an asterisk next to their name, 60-game season. I think this is, like you said, the final of the year. The Dodgers come out on top. The Rays, like I said, I really would like what they have, but at one point they have to run out of gas. I think the World Series, they make it to the World Series finally, but I just don't see them having enough to beat the Dodgers. Like you said, the Dodgers are just so loaded from top to bottom. It's going to be hard to see them not win the World Series. But hey, on my end, at least it's not the Yankees. I saw the Nationals win the World Series last year. I can deal with one more year, but you know what? One more year is probably enough of my not like teams winning the World Series. You got to get something different in 2021. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching our previews, our predictions for the 2020 postseason, the shortened season, the asterisk season where the Dodgers will win the World Series and we put an asterisk next to their name. Hope you guys enjoyed. Come back next week where we're going to surprise you guys. We don't know what we're going to do yet. Or do we? Come back next week for the next podcast. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.